So, MatPat has just put out a new Mario theory on toads. Being the Mario theorist I am, I had to give it a look and see how it holds up. This isn't something I normally do, but it should be fun as a quick little video. Let me just preface this by saying I have nothing against MatPat or the game theorist writing team as people, but that doesn't mean I can't criticize their output. Throughout this video, I'm going to be responding to MatPat and referring to him by name, even though in reality there are many writers behind these videos. The reason I'll be referring to MatPat specifically is because he is the face of the channel and the one narrating this video. For all intents and purposes, he's framed as the one proposing this theory. As well as that, I'm going to be cutting out the jokes where I can to keep the runtime down. I'll only be responding to the actual points. Here we go!
Good old reliable Toad, character that needs no introduction. Someone who's been around since Super Mario Bros. Back in 1985. For a while, it seemed like Nintendo was just happy palette swapping Toad to infinity. Makes sense, he's an endlessly versatile character. Need a partner for Blue Toad? Boom! Yellow Toad. Two completely different characters, we swear. But then Nintendo introduced Toadette. Toadette was pink. Toadette had distinctive pigtails. Toadette had the whole "et" thing at the end of their name.
Here it's implied that toads prior to the introduction of Toadette were all identical in appearance aside from different colored spots and clothing. While this is largely true, it's important to note that as far back as Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars, we've seen toads with hair, different genders, ages, beards and mustaches, and even cap designs. While these toads are rarer and usually found outside the Mushroom Kingdom, they still most definitely existed, and could be seen in games like Paper Mario or Mario Party. Toadette was far from the first pink toad, and not even the first toad with pigtails, though she is the first one we saw that has pigtails that look like mushrooms.
All of it seemed to indicate that Toadette was meant to be the feminine counterpart to Toad, until an interview said differently. An interview from Mr. Mario Maker himself, Shigeru Miyamoto.
When we made the original Toad, we didn't really have in mind whether Toad was a boy or a girl. Ever since Toadette has started appearing in games, I think people have come to take the impression that Toad was a boy because Toadette was a girl. Obviously, there's lots of different Toads that have been in a lot of different games.
He leaves it open-ended, and by saying, "we never thought about it," the hope is that the discussion can just move on, because if he doesn't know, then does it really matter?
Wow, okay. That is quite a bit of quote mining and warping the intention to fit your narrative. In that clip, Shigeru Miyamoto was saying that back in Super Mario Bros., at the time of the Toad's original creation, they did not have a specific sex in mind for the characters. However, with the introduction of female Toads, such as Toadette in later games, the original Toads retroactively became male.
No, actually, it doesn't. None of this matters. It's a fictional mushroom monster in a game where a giant dragon turtle go-karts with you. So the question remains, if Toad and Toadette are canonically neither male nor female, what are they? The obvious answer here is that they're a mushroom of some kind. They look like a mushroom and they live in a place called Mushroom Kingdom, so seems like a fairly reasonable logical leap to make. In an old theory of ours, we actually use this quote from Koichi Hayashida, producer of Captain Toad, which implies that the two are at least very close. Quote, "While toads may be mushroom-like, it's unclear just how closely related to mushrooms they are. The resemblance in nomenclature is too uncanny not to wonder." So, are they or are they not mushrooms?
In this instance, MatPat decided to not read the article he was pulling quotes from, and instead made up a quote which sounded good for his theory. No, toads are not mushrooms, and in fact, looking at what Hayashida actually said in the interview, confirms this to be the case. According to the original GameSpot article, Hayashida clarified that toads are not mushrooms at all. He never said it's unclear just how closely related to mushrooms they are. That was actually said by Alexa, who wrote the article referred to here in reference to what we know about the toad's relation to mushrooms from the games themselves.
In Mario Sports Mix, Toad has a special ability that allows him to grow and manipulate mushrooms out of the ground to disrupt the other players.
Yes, a toad's cap can produce spores which themselves grow into mushrooms. We see this in both Mario Sports Mix, like you mentioned, and Mario Tennis for the Nintendo 64. However, these mushrooms from a toad's cap are produced asexually. That means the spores produced by a toad's cap are chlamydospores. There is no partner involved. As well as that, these mushrooms clearly don't grow into toads themselves, especially since we've seen toad children elsewhere in the series.
We also have Peach's special move from the Super Smash Bros. Series to go off of. She whips out her Toad, and it releases what I always thought to be a cloud of dust, but reading the in-game description is actually meant to be fungal spores, just like mushrooms are known to do.
The Super Smash Bros. Series is not canon to Mario, and its representations of the Mario characters cannot be used as evidence when crafting a Mario theory.
Based on everything we know, I have to call it. Toads are advanced forms of mushrooms.
Let's quickly go over why this obviously isn't the case. Not only does the Hayashida quote from earlier directly contradict this conclusion, but in Super Mario Strikers, we're shown this, a Toad's skeleton, when they're electrocuted. That's right, they have bones, which confirms that toads are actually animals. Probably distantly related to humans based on their anatomy. So, then how are their heads mushrooms? Why do they produce spores? Well, that's pretty simple. It's symbiosis. These mushrooms grow out of a toad's head. The toads get the benefits of camouflage and head protection, while the mushroom gets a mobile patch to spread its spores far and wide, resulting in the mushrooms we see in Mario Sports Mix and Mario Tennis.
The games are already filled with sentient plants after all, so it's not all that crazy. If it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck.
Isn't this ironic? MatPat, I'm afraid these ducks aren't ducks at all. Toads aren't the only surprise animals we get to discuss here. As it turns out, piranha plants also have bones, which again makes them animals, not sentient plants. This actually makes a lot of sense with creatures like Dino Piranha, Pee-wee Piranha, or Mom Piranha. They've got reptilian traits, they come from eggs, and they've even got scales. Piranha plants only bear a strong resemblance to plants, likely for camouflage or mimicry. They resemble a plant so that they can surprise their next potential meal.
Now, Nintendo has never come out and said how these characters reproduce, but we can figure it out. What we do tend to see are two toads coming together to get married and start families. There's a love-struck couple found in the streets of Toad Town in Paper Mario. We find a family living together in Super Mario RPG, married couple with kids. In the same game, there's one toad named Raz who talks about him and his beloved Rainy getting married. The evidence in the franchise seems to be leaning heavily towards the idea that these mushrooms, including Toadette, can be romantically involved and get married. Does that necessarily mean that they're reproducing sexually? No, but it certainly seems to imply it.
MatPat, you seem to be forgetting that in this world babies are delivered by storks. Sexual reproduction has never been applied to exist in Mario's world. Just because you see toad couples with children does not at all imply that toads reproduce sexually. It just means that the storks have paid them a visit. Most of the rest of this video relies on the belief that toads are literally mushrooms. Keeping in mind that that's untrue, there are a few other flaws here.
Whatever specific mating types toads and toadettes are depends on the type of mushroom they are. The first thing that comes to mind is that they're whatever kind of mushroom the super mushroom is. However, for as easy as it would be to connect the two, it would also be incorrect. Super mushrooms have white spots on a red cap. Toad, from the very beginning, has been shown to be the complete reverse. Red spots on a white cap. This is critical because color is very important in the fungi world.
Despite the fact that they have no relation to the super mushroom, toads can actually have white spots on a red cap. We've seen it in a handful of places. Inverted colors are uncommon, but still present amongst the species.
So are there any mushrooms out there that can match our desired color scheme that also reproduce via sexual reproduction? Dear theorist, after literal hours of scouring through just catalogs of mushrooms, I found the one that fits the bill. Introducing Hydnellum peckii, also known as the strawberries and cream fungus or the bleeding tooth fungus.
I can't be the only one who looks at this and thinks it's a stretch, right? Not only is the shape completely wrong, but the cap isn't even white, it's pink. And the spots are translucent instead of opaque, like the spots on a toad are. Even if the color and shape did match, it wouldn't mean anything, because again, we know that toad caps come in a variety of colors and even patterns, not just white and red spots.
And that's not all. Look at how it ages. It begins to develop a beige color with brown spots, just like another elderly toad that we know about.
Toads do not go brown as they age. While this at first appears to be a fine assumption, the tiniest bit of research proves otherwise. Not only have we seen many old toads who retain a variety of different colored caps, such as the Toad Minister, Grandma, or Tasty, but in Mario & Luigi Partners in Time, we see Toadsworth when he was in his 30s, and he clearly still had a brown cap and brown spots back then.
Going back to Paper Mario and Super Mario RPG, you notice anything that might help us differentiate between the toads? Look at the couples that we pointed out earlier. Each couple is formed from two different colors of toad. Each color has to be its own mating type. I mean, there are plenty of animals that do exactly this, using sight as a means of identifying members of their own species, knowing which mates are going to produce the best offspring. Having toad's color correlate to mating type would serve as a quick way of rooting out who their potential sweetheart is meant to be.
We know toad cap colors don't relate to toad sex in general. Why? Because they can change. In Paper Mario the Origami King, there's a toad that confesses he used to be a different color, but spending too long in the grass has resulted in him turning green. Plus, Mario's buddy toad, who's gone on adventures and raced with him all these years, has even had his cap change color on a couple of occasions. Namely, in Super Mario 3D World, where his typical red spots became blue for the majority of the game. Toad caps also change color when they get power-ups, and sometimes their colors are even inverted when they power down.
And with that, we finally have our answer. After nearly 20 years, we've finally figured out who Toadette is in relation to Toad. They're not Toad's girlfriend, they're not Toad's boyfriend, they're just Toadettes. In fact, each of the different Toad colors that we see throughout the Mario franchise is likely to be their own specific mating types. You can have a red Toad and a Toadette reproduce, a blue and a yellow Toad, a green and a purple. The possibilities are endless. Well, not quite endless. You guys know me, I had to do the math on this. I had to do the impossible. I had to do what science had failed to do out in the real world. I had to figure out how many possibilities of Toad there are. Currently, there's no Pokedex for Toads that shows every color that's ever existed.
Actually, there is one. The Super Mario Wiki's Toad Species page has a list of every Toad color combination that's appeared in the franchise, canon and non-canon.
So we made one. We went step by step through every Mario game where Toad appears. 88 total games. And we cataloged each and every single unique color that we could find.
Here you can see that MatPat has listed Toad from Super Mario Bros. 2 under the blue label. However, this is inaccurate. Yes, Toad's sprites in the game appear to be blue, but this is due to sprite limitations. By taking a look at the 16-bit remakes of Super Mario Bros. 2 in Super Mario All-Stars and Super Mario Advance, the sequel, BS Super Mario USA, as well as all of the artwork featuring Toad from the original game, it's clear that Toad actually has red spots in this instance. Plus, down here you actually missed a few colors in Mario Kart Arcade GP, including the elusive orange Toads.
But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching.
And that's it. Certainly not game theory's worst theory on Mario, but it still doesn't hold up to scrutiny. It's back to the drawing board for you, MatPat, because you are wrong about Toad. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and check out some of my other stuff.